Okay.
Yeah. Because it's transcribing, so if you're speaking in Russian, it'll probably transcribe in Russian. And if you're speaking in some African language, it'll transcribe that. See, it's transcribing now.
Why
And I
is
have to
it
keep,
transcribing as well?
I don't know, and I keep having to turn it off. I think when I turn the transcribing off, it turned the recording off or something. I don't know. Anyway, I think it's going.
Because when we do it for TAFE, the lady records it, but it doesn't come up with transcribing. It just says recording.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's beyond me, all this technology. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Narendra probably
yeah.
knows more. Anyway, I
Yeah,
think it's still recording.
yeah, it's still. I can see something green dot on the left hand side. So probably it's
Okay,
recording. Yeah.
okay, okay. Okay, so let's offer respect to Lord Chaitanya and his associates. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhaktivinoda.
Okay, we're continuing our reading of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila, chapter 19, entitled The Lord Instructs Srila Goswami. Now, what text are we up to? Is it text 215?
Yes.
Okay. So we've been talking, we've been hearing and talking about Shantarasa. Some more detail is given now. It's gone through all the different rasas with examples of devotees in those rasas up to Madhuri Rasa, and now it's gone back to Shantaras with some more details, explaining about the characteristics of the different rasas. So, do you remember? There's two characteristics of Shantarasa. Two characteristics.
Characteristics of Shantarasa. Don't remember.
I've got it written down. So one
Okay.
is when you're fully attached to Krishna, but no service, but you're
Yeah.
not doing active service.
Yeah.
And the other one is when you're engaged in service. Is that right?
Engage in service, that's the next one. That's Dasya engage in service. So yeah, you mentioned the first quality, or one of the qualities of Shantaras is attached to Krishna, attached to the Lord. And the other one is detached from material desires. Detached from material desires. They go together. You can't have one without the other. You can't be attached to God and be attached to the material world at the same time. Does that make sense? So you have to let go of something. So you can't, yeah, you can't be spiritually attached and materially attached at the same time. So to be spiritually attached, you have to be materially detached. And if you're materially attached, means you're spiritually detached. You know, you're not attracted to Krishna, not attracted to God like that. So this is an um, important part of spiritual life is called vairagya. Vairagya detachment. So vairagya is very important. Without vairagya detachment, you can't progress spiritually. And we're given that example many times, you know, like the couple that got married, right? And they were going in the boat after marriage. And then when they in the night time they were the boatman was rowing the whole night. In the morning when the sun came up, they saw they were in exactly the same place. So how could they be in exactly the same place even though rowing the whole night? It's because the anchor was still there. So they're still attached to the shore, to the bank, so not moving. So we can't also move or progress spiritually if we're holding on. holding on to so many material attachments. Therefore, very important. And that's why, you know, 4 regulated principles are there. No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling. So this is vairagya, this is detachment, detached from activities that are based on just material enjoyment, sense gratification, not necessary things, we're attached to so many unnecessary things, things that are not useful. And that in Sanskrit is called anartha. Anartha. Artha means something of value, artha. Like we have the 4 principles of Vedic culture: dharma, artha, karma, moksha, which means religious or pious activities, then economic development, which is artha, and then karmas. Then with that economic development, then you satisfy your senses. And then after your senses are satisfied, well, actually, in the process of trying to satisfy your senses, you realize that actually the senses are never satisfied, no matter how much you give them. If you're a millionaire, you're not satisfied. You want 2 million. If you have 2 million, you want 5. 5, you want 10. You know, if even the person has a partner, but they want another different partner, not satisfied with the partner. So many things like that. You have a full meal and you're still looking for something else. The stomach's full and you still want more. So it doesn't matter how much you have. So then moksha comes after that. So basically, after trying to satisfy the senses as much as possible, and you just feel frustrated, and in that frustration then you want moksha. So it's interesting, how does the principle of liberation follow after sense gratification? That's how it follows, because after trying to satisfy the senses, one feels frustrated, and then one ends up seeking for getting out of the material world, which is what moksha is, to get liberated or freed from the material world. First of all, we try to enjoy the material world, and when we realize, like, no matter what I do, I can't enjoy it, and then you just, out of disgust, then you want to get out of the material world. And you think that's going to make you happy. But what we don't realize is you can't be happy trying to enjoy the material world, and you can't be happy trying to get out of the material world either. Even if you get out of the material world, we still won't be happy. Even the person, even if they do achieve moksha, which is very rare, even if they do, then they're still not going to be happy. Why? What's missing? What's the missing thing that's causing us to not be happy? We try to be happy in the world, and then we try to be happy by leaving the world. And even if we leave the world, we're still not happy. So what have we missed?
Because we are not, we don't accept the authority of God. You're still not God conscious, is that?
Yeah, we're missing our relationship with Krishna, the rasa, bhakti rasa, Krishna rasa. We're missing our loving relationship with God, and that's the real satisfaction. The real satisfaction comes from a intimate, loving relationship with God, and any of these 5 primary rasas like that. So, and that gives the real satisfaction. Nothing else can do it. You can't find satisfaction separate from Krishna anywhere in the material world, from the top to the bottom, even in heaven. We were just reading that on Thursday, that Krishna was discouraging, this process of going worshiping the demigods and going to heaven, because there's no happiness in that either. There's no, it's temporary, and even apart from that, it's just so many miserable conditions are there too. Just like here, they're always fighting with the demons and everything like that. They're always fearful situation. So, and even if you go beyond the material world into the spiritual, merging in the spiritual effulgence, Brahmajyoti, even that there's no happiness. The only happiness is when we re-establish our lost loving relationship with God, with Krishna. And that's the nature of the soul. That's the nature of the soul, to serve Krishna, to have that loving relationship with Krishna. Anything other than service to Krishna is never going to bring us happiness. But yeah, back to Artha. So Artha's something valuable. So So, anything that has no real value, we should give that up. We should vairagya, we should be detached from that. So anything that is not helping me to get back to my loving relationship with Krishna, that's an anartha. That's unwanted thing. So all these, grossly materialistic, sinful activities, meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling, they're anarthas. They are keeping us in the material world. They keep us away from Krishna. So definitely they should be, given up. They keep us away from Krishna like that. And yeah, so Shantaras, they have those two characteristics, anyone in that rasa, that they're attached to Krishna and detached from material desires like that. So they go together, those two things. But we have read in some of the verses that indicate that Shantaras are not necessarily attached to Krishna, but definitely attached to God, but could be attached to Brahman, the Brahman realization. So, and then we had some examples before of devotees in Shantarasa, and they were, Brahman realized, like it was, if I don't know if you remember, one example. Yeah, for Kumaras. So they in the beginning, they were just Brahman realized. So they knew they were not the body. They knew that they were Brahman, that they were a spiritual entity, but they weren't attracted to Krishna until what happened?
They
Why did
smelt the
they?
tulsi.
Yeah, they smelt the tulsi at Krishna's feet. That was very enthusiastic. Bhakti Mala, very
I
enthusiastic.
remembered something.
You remembered something. It's good. And Krishna's giving you the buddhi, the intelligence.
Yeah.
So yeah, they smelled the tulsi, the fragrance of there was a breeze that carried the aroma of the tulsi at Vishnu's, Narayan's lotus feet, and then they developed an attraction for Narayan from that fragrance. And then also the another one is the Prachetas. The Prachetas, the 9 sons of Rishabdeva, his 100 sons, and 9 of them were Brahman realized. But they also, after getting the association of Lord Shiva, who was a great Vaishnava, the greatest of Vaishnavas, after getting Lord Shiva's association, hearing some prayers of Lord Shiva, then they became attracted to serving Narayan, to serving Krishna. And also mentioned Shukadeva Goswami. He was even in the womb of his mother, son of Vyasadeva, even in the womb of his mother, he was Brahman realized, fully detached from the material world and everything. But after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from his father, after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the womb from his father, then he became Krishna conscious devotee. And then as soon as he took birth, he ran away from home. He ran away from home, and then he's just absorbed and serving and remembering Krishna and serving Krishna, even from a young age.
Who's
Because
that?
he
Who
wasn't
was
just
that?
a little.
Sorry.
What's that?
Who was that? Sorry. Who are you talking about?
Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker of
Shukadeva
Bhagavatam.
Goswami.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Son of Vyasadeva. He he was afraid of when he was Brahman realized in the womb. He was afraid of coming out into the material world, thinking he might get attracted to sense gratification. So he stayed in there. He was obviously had some special power that he wasn't just forced out after 9 months like we are. We didn't have any choice. But he decided to stay in there. I think he stayed there. Can you remember, Narendra, how many years? It was like
I think he was 15. Yeah,
Jayanti remembered. She said 16 years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
he was already 16 years old when he popped out. So he could just run away straight away. He wasn't just a little baby, stuck on his back. He could actually run away, So he'd been in there for 16 years. And must have been difficult for his mother carrying him for 16 years. But yeah, 5,000 years ago, this is, so they all had very special personalities. I mean, of course, Vyasadev's wife also is not going to be an ordinary woman. Was, very extraordinary personalities. So yeah, they had different powers and everything. But yeah, different examples. Brahman realized. So that's like Shantarasa. So yeah, not actively rendering service. So like that. So Shantarasa maybe Krishna conscious, but not yet rendering service, or at least Brahman realized and not rendering service. But in either case, not rendering service yet. Not rendering service yet. And so even in the other rasas, these two qualities remain. So that's still going to be there in all the others too. So even Madhurya rasa has got these two qualities: attached to Krishna and detached from material desires. Sakya rasa, same. Vatsalya rasa, same. Plus more. So then each rasa you go up, next one is dasya rasa, then you're adding something more on top of those two. You're adding something more, right? So there's more qualities as each rasa develops. There's more. And milk is very good, but if you boil it down, then it becomes even more better, condensed milk. And if you cook condensed milk even more, cook it even more, then you get burfi. Very nice. Like that. So the more so this is like cooking, more cooking. More condensed, more nicer, more flavor. I make this really nice sweet from a white pumpkin. It's called ash gourd. It's a particular gourd called ash gourd or white pumpkin. And I find the more I cook it, the more better it gets. The more longer, the more thicker, the more I cook it. And the sugar like caramelizes and stuff too. And the more you cook it, it's like gets more and more nectar like that. So what's that?
Peta. It's called peta, is it? That's what you mean?
No, I think different than peta. Different than peta. Yeah. Yeah, but peta is made from white pumpkin also, but different. This is a different process. Grating the white pumpkin, then just cooking it by itself, and you remove all the water. It takes a long time because it's like 90% water. And I start off with like 10 cups of grated, and you end up with about 2 cups because it's like all the water comes out. So it takes ages to remove all the water. Then all the water comes out, then you put butter or ghee, then cook it more. And then after cook that for some time, then add sugar, and then cook that more, and then you cook it till it becomes thick. And then add kesar, saffron, and elaichi, cardamom. Bus. That's it.
It's
And very nice.
Similar to you reduce it, gajar ka halwa or something,
Yeah, like gajar halwa, same process.
But
Same
I think
process.
white pumpkin absorbs flavors. It's basically absorbs all the flavors, whatever you want to make it.
So the nice saffron flavor and cardamom flavor is very nice. Yeah, it's a dangerous sweet. You just want to keep eating more and more of it. That's really good. And we have it growing here, so yeah, we make that fun.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone want to say anything about that? What we've talked about from last week?
That's good.
Okay, let's read 215 then.
Yeah.
Swarga moksha Krishna bhakta naraka karimane Krishna nishta Trishna tyaga shantira duigune.
Swarga moksha Krishna bhakta narakari mane Krishna nishtha Trishna tyaga santir dui gune. When a devotee is situated on the platform of Shantrasa, he desires neither elevation to the heavenly planets nor liberation. These are the result of karma and jnana, and the devotee considers them no better than hell. Person situated on the Shantras platform manifests the two transcendental qualities of detachment from all material desires and full attachment to Krishna. I think
So yeah, that's what's
just
that?
we said,
Yeah, it's just what I.
yeah.
So that's just what we were saying. So two qualities: free detachment from all material desires and fully attached to Krishna. So remember, we heard about last week, this word Shantaras comes from samatha, which comes from sama. So it's derived from the Sanskrit word sama. So sama means like equanimity or equipoise, seeing everything the same.
Yeah.
So this is an example here. How is it they're seeing all the same? So what's the same? So whether going to heaven or liberation or hell, for them it's all the same. So that is the Shantarasa, coming from that word sama. So they see everything the same. But how is that possible? How you could see that going to heaven or getting liberated from the material world and merging in the Brahman or going to hell in the material world is all equal. For them, it's all equal. It's all the same thing. So how is that possible?
Because you come back from there, all these places you go, you come back again to the material world when your pious activities are finished or pious credits. Is that? I'm just guessing.
Good guess, good guess. I mean, it's true what you're saying, that any of those places, heaven or hell, or merging in the Brahman, are all temporary, and you're going to fall back from those to some other position. You're not going to be able to remain in any of those. So what you're saying is true, but that's not really the reason why you're seeing it equally.
What does liberation actually mean? Is that what it means, merging into the Brahman?
Yeah.
Effulgence.
Yeah.
That's what liberation means.
Yeah. So in Sanskrit, that's called moksha or mukti. And in English, we use the word liberation. And liberation has the idea of freedom, so free. So free from what? Free from suffering. So if someone, if the soul gets liberated from the material world and merges in the Brahman, the spiritual light that emanates from Krishna's body, then they're free from suffering. There's no suffering there. So there's nothing negative there. There's nothing negative. But the problem is there's nothing positive either. So you're like in limbo. You don't have any suffering, but you don't have any of that spiritual ananda, no spiritual bliss of serving Krishna. So the real spiritual bliss comes from serving Krishna's lotus feet, in one of these, relationships. So they don't have that relationship. So there's nothing positive there. So the soul can't live without that positive taste of service. That's, like I said, our nature is to serve. So there's no service there merged in the Brahman. So missing that service, they end up falling back down to the material world. So that's the problem there. That's the problem there. Yeah. Yeah.
They're into heaven or they are merging with him, and it's all equal.
They are seeing them all as equal. There's no difference. They're not seeing any difference.
What were you asking? Why they are?
Yeah, why? How is that possible? How could you see hell the same as heaven? How could you see hell the same as what's that?
Because they're thinking that they are still connected with.
Correct. Yeah, so that's the answer. So they're thinking that they're still connected with Krishna. So wherever they are, they're absorbed in God. On that platform of Shantarasa, they're completely detached from the material world. They're just absorbed in thinking about God. So if they're in hell, what will they be thinking about? God. If they're in heaven, what will they be thinking about? God. And if they're in the spiritual world, what will they be thinking about? God. So it doesn't matter where their body is, then they're just going to be absorbed in thinking about God. So that's where the sama comes from. So sama, samata, shanta. So that's on that shanta ras. It doesn't matter where they are. They're in ecstasy. They're in ecstasy thinking about God. So and the next verse is a famous verse about that, which is actually, you've read the sixth canto, haven't you, Narendra? You read the sixth canto?
I've just started sixth canto.
Oh, you just started sixth canto. Well, in the sixth canto, you'll be coming to a pastime with Chitraketu, King Chitraketu, and he was a king, and he was very materialistic, as kings often are, and he had a lot of sense gratification. The main material enjoyment is through money and the opposite sex. So as a king, you've got lots of that. You've got lots of money and lots of opposite sex around you. And but he was really one disappointment in his life was that he couldn't get a son. So he had a wife and then no son, and a second wife, no son, third wife, and so like that he ended up with. It sounds extraordinary, but these are extraordinary, like I say, extraordinary people going back. This is going back millions of years ago. So he had 10 million wives, 10 million wives. So a lot of sense gratification, but disappointing because he couldn't get a son. So how is it possible he could have that many wives? And it's not that he was infertile, because that you could think that could be a good reason why. Because it's highly unlikely that 10 million women would be infertile, but maybe he's infertile. But nowadays, they'll just go and have an operation to try to sort that out. But it wasn't that he was infertile. It was because it wasn't his karma. It wasn't his destiny to have a son. So he was fighting against his destiny to try to get a son, and but not happening. So, and two sages came to the palace, and he they could tell he's looking pretty depressed. So what's going wrong? So he said, I just can't get a son, and can you help me? And they said, yeah, you can do this puja, this sacrifice, and get a son. But we warn you that this son will be harsha shoka. This will be the cause of your happiness and your lamentation. He said, no, I'm not worried about that. Don't worry about that. I just want a son. Forget about it. It's going to cause some problem later on. So yeah, when the son was born, one wife gave birth to, one of the 10 million wives gave birth to a son. And then obviously the husband and wife very happy. But there were other people who were unhappy. Who was that?
Other wives, I guess.
Other wives that, because they weren't getting any attention anymore. The one wife that gave the son got all the attention, and the other 99, like that million didn't, and 999,000 didn't get the attention. So they became very upset, and they plotted together to remove this problem, which was the son. So they poisoned the son. And then obviously lamentation, King Chitraketu was lamenting. And then, he fell unconscious, and actually he said he went like blind, almost blind, because of the lamentation. And the wife was crying and everything. And then the two sages came back, and then they tried to preach to him, but he was so much. It's actually not very effective trying to preach to someone if they're suffering too much. Actually, if they're a little bit of suffering is a good opportunity to preach, but too much suffering, good luck. They just can't comprehend anything because their senses and mind are too disturbed. Like that. So like. Yeah, like, I mean, it's like, imagine a family member died or something. You don't go up to the person, 2 minutes after and, try to preach to them too much because it's probably not going to be able to hear you. So you just sympathize, I'm really sorry and, like that, and I understand and, empathize, right? Empathize with them, sympathize with them and everything. But don't, preach straight after, that someone died or something. It's probably not going to be very effective. So just be a shoulder to cry on and stuff like that. Let them cry and everything. And when they've calmed down a bit, then you can preach. And that's why, like, after someone dies in Indian culture, Vedic culture, they'll read Bhagavad Gita every day for hours every day. For how many days? You went and did that a while ago, right, Narendra?
That was
How
some
many
other
days?
Garud Puran.
Oh, but how many days? How many days do you read the scripture for?
They shortened it. I think 5 days. I think 5.
Okay, but normally I think it's like 16 days or
Yeah,
something, or
I think for 10
or
days,
18 days.
10 days they do something. I don't know.
10 days, yeah.
For 10 days, and then within 10 days, other 5 days in the evening, they have Garud Puran and all this. So yeah, I mean, it's slightly different everywhere as you go. India.
Yeah. But the basic principle is good that, someone's got very disturbed due to someone dying or whatever, and then give them the philosophy can help them get grounded again and come back to a more sane, way of thinking and everything, and just let go of that, pain and detach from all that with the knowledge, you're getting so like I was saying, vairagya, but with vairagya is jnana. And that's what helps to get the vairagya detachment, is getting the spiritual knowledge. So they're giving the spiritual knowledge. Someone died, give them the spiritual knowledge, and that can help them detach from all that, lamentation and pain and anxiety and stuff like that. So very nice. But I mean, immediately after the thing happens, then it's good luck giving them the knowledge. Is probably not going to be able to digest it. Just wait some time, and then you can do like that. So the two sages tried to help, and they couldn't. They still couldn't come out of it. The mother and father. So then they're very powerful. They brought the child back to life. They brought the dead child back to life, and then the sage said to the child, the soul, and the child that came back to life said, "Why did you prematurely leave your mother and father?" And then the soul in the child said, "Which mother and father? I've had millions of mothers and millions of fathers." And so like that, hearing that, actually, when the parents heard this enlightening words from the soul in their dead child, that snapped them out of their attachment. That snapped them out of it. And then actually Chitraketu became a highly enlightened devotee after that. He became highly enlightened, and he left the palace, left his kingdom, left his subjects, everything, and he just wandered around the universe as a devotee and singing the glories of the Lord. And then Jayanti said, the poor thing, he got cursed. So yeah, he ended up getting cursed by Durga, by the goddess of the material world. So he happened to come across Lord Shiva and his wife, and they were embracing each other in a solitary place, kind of thing like that. Sort of a wrong sort of moment to bump into them. And then he was praising actually Lord Shiva, but it sounded like a bit of a criticism. So his wife took it as a criticism. He was saying, "Oh, how amazing it is that Lord Shiva, such a great personality, is like embracing, a woman like that, embracing his wife like that, just like an ordinary materialistic person." So actually, he was praising him that he was still, so transcendental, even though, materially associating like that with the material energy. But his wife took it in a bad way, and she cursed him to become a demon, and he became Vritrasura, a great demon. Well, I mean, in the body of a demon, but actually Vritrasura was a great devotee, but in the body of a demon, demoniac family and everything. And he was fighting with Indra like that in his next life. But when immediately after he was cursed by Durga, Chitraketu, he accepted that curse and without any anxiety. And he said basically, "Thank you very much. I'm very sorry I've upset you, Mother Parvati, Durga, thank you very much. I'll take it as a blessing and everything. And then he just went away, without any anxiety, no fear, nothing. And Mother Parvati was like, she was bewildered. I just cursed him to basically become a demon and suffer, and he's not worried at all. How's that possible? And then Lord Shiva spoke this verse, which is 216. Lord Shiva spoke this verse, which basically says, for a pure devotee of the Lord, then whether you're in heaven or hell or liberated, it's all the same. So that's the basic Shantarasa mentality. It doesn't matter where you are, that you're just absorbed in your loving relationship with God. So it doesn't really matter where you are. But just a little bit more on this verse. So it says, when a devotee is situated on the platform Shantarasa, he neither desires elevation in heavenly planets nor liberation. These are results of karma and jnana. So how's that connected? So if someone's engaged in karma, which means fruitive activities, so they'll be doing, and on this karma kanda platform, they'll be engaged in doing ritualistic activities, like fruitive activities, like different sacrifices, to please different demigods, which we've been reading on Thursday's verse in the Bhagavad Gita. So they'll perform different ritualistic sacrifices to please different demigods, and for the purpose of going to heaven. So, someone that's, so that's the result of karma. So the result of karma kanda, doing these sacrifices to please the demigods, is going to heaven. And the result of jnana, so that's speculative knowledge. So jnana means speculative knowledge. So the result of speculative knowledge, following that process, where you detach from karma. So on the jnana platform, you detach from karma. So no more fruitive activities to go to heaven or anything, and no more sinful activities. So no more sex, drugs, rock and roll, and all that. So they'll be just, reading scriptures and hearing philosophy. They'd often be studying Vedanta Sutra. So Vedanta, reading these Gyanis, they read Vedanta Sutra and detaching from material enjoyment and everything, realizing that they're Brahman, realizing that they're a spiritual entity, that they're not the body. So the result of that jnana is liberation. That's the result, is liberation. So that's just a bit of an explanation about that. And we've explained how they see all the different places equally, hell, heaven, liberation, see them equally. Yeah, and they're two qualities: detached from all material desires, full attachment to Krishna. Does anyone want to say anything about that?
It's like they're surrendered to Krishna, is it? Shantaras people, it's kind of a 100%.
Yep. That wherever you're going to send me, Krishna, I don't mind. Wherever you send me to heaven or hell, I accept that. So they don't have any not going to say, oh, Krishna, you send me to hell. I'm not going to serve you anymore. I'm not very happy about that. You made a bit of a bad choice there to send me to hell. I don't want to serve you anymore. So they're not going to complain. They're not going to protest. They're not, don't have any expectations. Don't have any expectations. I'll serve you, Krishna, if you liberate me. But if I have to come back again, I don't want to serve you anymore. So there's not going to be any expectation like that. And so it's unconditionally, they're attached to the Lord. Doesn't matter what the Lord does to them. Can you hear what she's saying?
Yeah.
Oh, she's saying that the Shantaras is also so high level.
Because just having itself is very high level. Because, generally people are quite attached. But what I'm saying is, but generally, I have always heard preachers speak about Shantaras is not desirable kind of a thing. Why is that then?
She's saying she's heard from other preachers saying that most preachers present Shantaras as not very good.
Very low.
As very low, like that. So why is that? Yeah, I mean it's still not perfect because the service hasn't begun. So that's our real perfection is serving. That's our nature, is to serve Krishna. So that hasn't yet started. But even what we're hearing here, it's like, wow, they're even they're sent to hell, they still maintain their attachment to God. So from where I am personally, I think, wow, this is way high. It's like nothing to criticize. I wish I could have that unconditional, love for the Lord, even if I was sent to hell or heaven or whatever. So yeah, it's nothing to minimize. We don't want to minimize this. This is like, wow, something to look up to, like that. But still, it can be developed further, like I was saying, into service, like that. Still, it can be developed further.
Would you say that this, the Bhagavad Gita, I think 18.66, where God says, Sardharam Paritajya Mamekam Sharanam. I mean, it's kind of a, it's like they are totally depending on God, basically. So it's similar. I mean, that's what they are following. What Krishna said there in 1866, they are following that. They are totally surrendered to. I mean, if that is low, then I I mean, I don't know. That's still from my scale. Like it's like way away. I mean, that's so hard doing that.
Yeah, definitely surrendered. Yeah, they're definitely surrendered. I mean, our position's interesting. If we think, well, where are we?
Yeah, that's what
because
I'm saying.
Actually we're doing something that they're not, which is service, right? So we're doing service, which they're not doing service, and we're doing service. However, I would say, it's highly likely we might have some material desires, which they don't have.
That's true. I mean, yeah.
And when maybe not completely attached to the Lord, which they are. And also, if we were sent to hell, I'm not so sure whether we would continue.
That's true.
So in heaven, we might get distracted. Wow, look at all those apsaras. I'm going to forget Krishna. I'm just going to go after the apsaras and the somaras and forget about Krishna. But they wouldn't do that. They'd still remain fixed in their, meditation, absorption in the Lord, like that. So it's interesting. We're a bit sort of in between. We don't have the super qualities they have. At the same time, we're doing service and they're not. So, and that's the mercy. I would say that's how is it possible we're doing service without having those two qualities fully developed, of being fully attached to Krishna and fully detached from the material side. How is it possible we don't have those two fully developed? We have some of it, I would say, but not fully. Definitely, I'd say we have some detachment from material desires and some attachment to Krishna, but not to the extent they have. And yet we're rendering service. So how is that possible? We can render service without having those two qualities.
That's because we are just on a path. We have still not gone to any of the 5
blurting out where
relationships.
Yeah, that's there. But also I would say a lot of it's mercy we've received from the spiritual master. That we've received some mercy. So we've been elevated to a position I would say we're not really qualified for. We've been out of serving Krishna, chanting his names, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, like that Bhagavad Gita, Caitanya Caritamrita, which is actually the highest literature in the Vedas. How is it possible we've become eligible, have the adhikar to hear Sri Chaitanya Caritamrita, which is the most highest of all the scriptures? And we're just like a completely Kali Yuga militia, speaking for myself, our background. How is that possible? I was eating cows a few decades ago, you know, and now we're hearing Sri Caitanya Caritamrita. I mean, I was hearing Sri Caitanya Caritamrita within a month after eating cows. You know, so how is that possible? You know, as Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, like that. We were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, with a few days after eating cows. You know, in the temple every morning they read Srimad Bhagavatam. So how is that possible? We went from the lowest position to the highest within a few days. It's the mercy of the devotees. It's the mercy of the Vaishnavas, you know,
I was,
lifted us up. So not really qualified, but
but we say they are not doing service, but what is service? Service means what Krishna says you to do, and if you're doing, you are serving him. So if they are following, if they are totally surrendered, they are serving him in a way, isn't it? It's not physical service, but it's like whatever he's saying, whatever he's asking us, if you're doing it, that's a service because that's what he's asking you. So in a way, I mean that's kind of a different angle, but so I mean in terms of they're also serving, but maybe they're not aware they are serving, they're just following it or something, I don't know. Yeah, but the other thing you said about, I was reading the Bhagavatam chapter sorry, canto 6, chapter 1 or 2, where the Ajamil, and then there's a conversation between Vishnu Duta and Yam Duta, and then Vishnu Duta, they say that even if you take the name of God knowingly or unknowingly, that can remove all your sins. I mean, if you have conviction, if you have faith, that even taking one time the name of God, I mean, the precondition is that you should have conviction that if I take name of the God, he's gonna help me with my sins or take off my sins. But if you are saying, if you don't believe in it, and if you take the name, probably that won't going to work. But he probably did without, I think. So I was trying to struggle and to understand. He did all the wrong things, and he just took his name. He's not even directly taking his name, but just indirectly calling his son, and then he got that. So I was like, then I realized that you have to have conviction from inside that yes, if I take the name, he will help me. The God will, Krishna will help me. So if you don't have conviction, probably you will never get his mercy as well. So that kind of a thing. So yeah, I was struggling with that.
Yeah, but even Ajamil, he didn't have conviction about God, but he was associating with the name, and that was enough to save him from going to hell. The Yamadutas taken him to hell. So that was the point there, whether whatever way you're saying the name doesn't really matter. It's just say the name. Just by saying the name, you're associating with the name, whether it's with knowledge that it's the name of God or without, is still enough to purify you from your sins.
I think, yeah, probably it's when he was dying, he took the name unknowingly. Is that more important when you're dying or you're in a position of hardship, then you're taking the name?
Yeah, well, I mean that's the crucial point is at the time of death. I mean, when you chant he chanted Narayan while he was alive. He was chanting the name of his son Narayan while he was alive. But when he chanted when you die, so whatever's going on in your mind when you die, that's gonna determine where you're gonna go.
But intention is not there, right? I just calling my son. There's nothing.
Yeah, it was calling his son, but it was the name of God. So then he got the credit for that. He got the benefit of that he said the name of God when he died, when it's dying. He didn't actually die, but he was about to die. So he got the credit for that, even though his intention was the son, but he actually said the name of God. But what's actually mentioned by some of the acharyas, at that time, he called out his son's name, but he remembered the original Narayan. He was calling Narayan his son, but at the time of calling Narayan his son, in that miserable condition, and seeing these horrible Yamadutas, the messengers of Yamaraj, coming to get him, at that time he remembered the original Narayan. And then that gave him even more further benefit. And then he was Narayan's servants came, the Vishnudutas, and stopped the Yamadutas for taking him. But at that point he hadn't developed love of God, so he wasn't qualified to go to Vaikuntha. But that was enough to stop him from going to hell and extend his lifespan. So he was actually destined to die at that time, but he was given more time. So the Yamadutas went away and he didn't die. And then he went to a place called Baduk Ashram, which is a very holy place high up in the Himalayas. Then he realized that Narayan saved his butt from going to hell. So he was very grateful and he was purified of his sins by chanting the name Narayan. And then he developed his bhakti. So then he developed his bhakti in this ashram, Baduk Ashram. Then when his bhakti was developed, then the Vishnudutas came for a second time and took him back to Godhead. Took him back to Godhead.
But then that's not what it says.
Giant is saying that's taking, by saying that when he said Narayan, he remembered the original Narayan, that's taking the theme away from the original theme, which is that it doesn't really matter what you're thinking. If you say the name of God, then you're going to get the benefit of that. But no, it's not really taken away.
I think,
but it has, you're still going to get benefit no matter what you're thinking if you say God's names, Krishna or Narayan or Rama or whatever. You're still gonna you're gonna get purified no matter what you're thinking. However, you're going to get even more benefit if you do remember that Krishna is referring to Supreme Person of Godhead, or Rama is referring to Rama, and like that, Narayan's referring to Narayan, rather than just your son or whatever, So you're going to get benefit no matter what you think about, but you're going to get more benefit if you consciously chanting the name of God like that. Does that make sense?
Is it is it at the time of death which is more important, or any time? I mean, if you take, say, for example, somebody is really atheist and he takes, as the example, right, where people say Hare Krishna or something. So do you think those people will be, if they are going to hell, they will be stopped by the Vishnu Dutas or something? Or it's just
They'll get a better life.
At the time of dying, probably it's more difficult to take the name of God unless you have practiced whole life.
Sure.
So
yeah, if you're chanting the name at death, it's not just going to happen by chance.
Yeah, you have to.
You never thought about God your whole life, and then suddenly you're going to remember him at death. That's highly unlikely. It may happen, but it's highly unlikely. The only way we can sort of almost guarantee, or not even guarantee, but give us a good chance to remember him when we die is if we practice now. So definitely we want to start practicing chanting the name when we're healthy, and then we may be, and because it's going to be very difficult at the time of death. Usually it's very difficult.
So it's more important. I think if somebody somebody calls somebody's name, he's not dying, he just calls Hare Krishna or something, and he's an atheist, and then he forgets he's not going to get the same benefit, isn't it? It's Doesn't seems like, I mean, or easy.
No, I mean, see, chanting the name of God doesn't matter whatever you're thinking is enough to liberate you. It's not enough to take you back to Godhead, like into Krishna's association, like that.
Anybody.
Better
I mean,
life.
So, like you said, I think you quoted before, even one name can give you liberation. So yeah, one name of God can be enough for liberation, but it's not enough to give you Krishna praying in love of God. So, if you're just chanting it mechanically or whatever like that, or meaning referring to your son or whatever like that. But if you chant it with love, then that can give you, love of God like that without, so.
But they get that Ajnana Sukriti, so that will give them a better life the next time. Better life means they'll be in the path of remembering Krishna. If they have been chanting, so sometimes when you go on Harinam, people will
No, but I mean that was the whole point with see Ajamil chanted the name of his son, whose name was Narayan. And at the time of death, when he did that, then the Yamadutas were going to take him to be punished for his sinful activities. But the Vishnu Duta's point was he doesn't have any more sins because he's chanted the name of God. So the sins are destroyed. Or he doesn't have to suffer the reaction of his sins because the sinful reactions are destroyed because he's chanted God's name. So it means if all your sins are gone, what does that mean? You're liberated, right? Why are we not liberated is because of sinful reactions. And as soon as the sinful reactions are gone, that means you're free. You're free to go. Does that make sense? Well, why do we have to come back again? Because of sinful reactions. If you don't have any sinful reactions, then you don't have to come back again. Then you're liberated. So even chanting the holy name once, like at the time of death, if you chant the holy name, all your sins are destroyed by chanting that name. And then technically you're out of here. You got the ticket out of here. But that's not enough to give you love of God. But it is enough to get you out of the material world.
So that there's another condition that your the balance of your sinful activity or karma is not finished. Then only you're gonna get liberated, or somebody, as I say, somebody who is an atheist, he chants once. Okay, some of his sins will be cleared up. I don't know what the story, how it works, but
no, all of them.
we still have some sins because one chanting won't, as you said. I mean, so in that scenario, what will happen? That person will still be, he won't be liberated. I mean, in that scenario, isn't it? So it's
no, yes. If even the most sinful person says the name of God at the time of death, he's liberated. All sins gone, all gone, completely gone.
At the time of death, yes. But
at the time of death. But see, that's normally not going to happen. That a sinful person is going to chant the name of God at the time of death. Normally they're not going to do that because normally at the time of death means you're going to remember what you're most attached to. And a materialistic person is attached, like often I hear Jayanti say that when she's scared, some fearful situation, she'll call out Amma, Appa, means mother and father. So obviously it's like that. Whatever we're attached to, that's what comes into your mind, when you're in a fearful condition. So that's why we have to practice now, so that our main attachment's not money. Our main attachment's not our kids. Our main attachment's not our parents. Our main attachment's not, whatever it is, our dog or whatever like that. Otherwise, at the time of death, automatically that the main attachments are going to come out. like that, which is not going to be very progressive like that if you remember your dog when you die or your parents when you die or whatever like that. So we're trying to develop our attachment for Krishna now so that it's more likely at the time of death and that attachment will come out and we'll call out to Krishna or whatever like that. And
yeah, I think, yeah, so it's at the time of death only that will work. And that cannot, as you said, possible. That can only be possible if you have whole life, you have remembered Krishna every day and every moment. Then you will be able to remember him. Then, but if I think I took it the other way previously, is that it's not at the dying. It's, even if somebody says anything, say for example, somebody is an atheist, he just says he's not dying. He just say Hare Krishna. His sins won't go away. I mean, is that?
No, it is like, someone is eating a McDonald's burger and they see the Hare Krishnas go past and they imitate that and say Hare Krishna. At that particular moment in time, that person is liberated. If they got hit by a bus or had a heart attack, at that time, they would be liberated from the material world. They would not have to take another material body. They would not. But as soon as after that, they said Hare Krishna, and then if they don't die, and then they bite into the McDonald's burger again, then they're again started their sinful reactions again. Does that make sense? But if they died at that particular moment that they chanted the name of God, then all their sins are wiped out and they'd be liberated, right? But then if you start again, and then they went and drank beer and ate a burger, and then they're starting up there, and then the entanglement continues like that. But a very interesting subject is that it's explained that if you see Jagannath during his Rath Yatra and do things like pull the ropes, but it's even mentioned even seeing Jagannath during the Rath Yatra or pull the ropes and do whatever other services like that, that person will be liberated. So then how's that possible? So when they were 20, they pulled the Rath Yatra cart, and then they died when they were 60. And between 20 and 60, they did, drunk beer and had illicit sex and ate meat. You got the idea. But how is it that that person can be liberated? So it's what Prabhupada explained at one time, because one person asked, how does that work? How is that possible? Even once in their life. So Prabhupada explained at the time of death, what happens is your mind flashes back over all the incidents of your life. It's like a movie, all the slides. A movie's made up of many like slides, right? And it's moving so fast that it looks like it's just one motion picture, right? But it's actually made up of lots of little slides. So our life is made up of millions of all these little things that happen to us in our life. So your mind flashes back at the time of death, flashes back over all the things that happened in our life. And Prabhupada said, when it comes to that slide of you having darshan of Jagannath or pulling the ropes at that time, Krishna arranges that your mind stops on that one. It doesn't continue past that. Isn't that amazing? It doesn't continue past that slide, and then you die. What's that? That's mercy. That's kripa. That's prasadam of the Lord. So that's how it works, Prabhupada explained. That's how someone, even once in their life, sees Jagannath on Rath Yatra or pulls the ropes, they get liberated. Because at the time of death, Krishna stops your mind's going over all your nonsense. The rest of your life was complete nonsense, but Krishna arranges out of his causeless mercy and love for us that your mind just gets stuck on that one. If that's not mercy, I don't know what mercy is. So that's an example of how Krishna just is looking for something good in us, even though we're 99.9% rotten to the core. But even that 0.1% good thing you do for him, he'll just say, he'll magnify that. Wow, look at that's fantastic. That's like super excellent. And he'll just overlook all the trash, so that's we call that magnanimity, magnanimity, I think something like that. That is just so kind, so
Yeah,
kind. It's like when Prabhupada, when he just remembered Lord Caitanya and said he's just so kind, so kind. He went into ecstasy. He couldn't say anything more because it's just the Lord is so kind. Like that, so Jagannath is also so kind, like that. And then I overlook all the bad things and just see one. Oh, look, Narendra did one good thing. Bhakti Mala did one good thing, and then just overlook all the other stuff. So that's where we place our hope in the Lord's
yeah.
being so kind. Yep.
It's a bit incomprehensible for me, but I mean, you do one time and do all the wrong things out of that. I mean, from the material mind, it's really incomprehensible saying that if I
Yeah.
take once,
Yeah.
and people who have taken whole life, they have chanted Hare Krishna, and
Yeah.
this guy once,
Yeah.
does it sounds unfair or something that he got the
No.
mercy but I didn't, or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, maybe we don't know. I mean, maybe we heard that he took once, but internally he might be doing a lot of bhakti or something, but we didn't know. So I think God is unbiased, is very fair. So that's what I think. He's very fair. He doesn't, um, even if somebody is doing wrong thing at the moment, he's trying to help everyone. He's so kind. But we are averse to his kindness. We don't see his help. So that kind of thing. He's kind to he's mercy with everyone. But
Yeah.
that still I'm not able to understand. If you take once, you take his name and do all the wrong things, and he will take you in. That's kind of I'm not able to kind of comprehend at this moment. Maybe later, but I see him as very fair and very unbiased, and he sees you doing, you'll do, but he can do anything. But yeah, so it's at the moment it seems just one time taking his name and not doing anything, and then you will get through. I don't sort of agree at this moment, but maybe later on. But yeah, it's possible. But in case of mercy, as you said, he stops that movie at that particular point of time so he can remember it. I think if you do it without least effort, why we are chanting all day and night for how many years? You just
Yeah.
focus on one. But I think only those person will get mercy who have actually practiced. Maybe for us, it seems that they just once said name, but internally they might be doing something in the background. They might be doing something which God wants them to do, or they did it. And that's
So I mean, your point, why keep doing service if all you need to do is go to one Rath Yatra or whatever? Why keep doing more? But remember, but that's not our purpose. Is to get liberated.
no, but
Our purpose is to serve Krishna
yeah, that's true.
unconditionally all the time. So that's our dharma, is to serve Krishna. It's not our dharma to get liberated.
That's not the aim.
Actually, it's said that liberation is an automatic byproduct of service. So you get that? Liberation is a byproduct of service. Our purpose is not liberation. Our purpose is service. And the liberation is a byproduct. It comes automatically with the service, like that. When I think, I chanted one name, that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to bed now. Or I've gone to Rath Yatra, I'm going to go back to bed now and go to the pub and everything like that. But even if due to our material attachments or whatever, our past bad karma or whatever, that we do go back to the pub after we went to Rath Yatra or chanted the holy name. But Krishna's remembers that you reached out to me, and I'm not going to forget that. And I'm going to give you the credit for that. I'm going to help you, because you did that, because you called out to him. And, and sure, we stuffed up after that or whatever. That may happen. It's highly likely that may happen because we're so tiny and Maya's so powerful. But, all those nonsense things that we do actually don't touch the soul. The soul's always a pure soul. We have to remember that. And all this material contamination is actually not touching the soul. It's just due to the effect of the material energy. And but that doesn't interfere with our loving relationship with Krishna in any way. It's just temporarily covered over. The soul's temporarily covered over. But all this nonsense actually has nothing to do with the pure spirit soul and with Krishna and our relationship like that. So yeah, it's not that it's not fair. Like how is it, a person called out Krishna's name, went to Rathayatra, and then he was a rascal after that. That's not very fair. No, it's fair because it's all that rubbish is gone, doesn't touch the soul. Actually, the soul is said something. There's a Sanskrit mantra that says asango purusha something. That to the soul as asanga is not associated with this material world. Ayam asanga purusha or something like that. And yeah, so someone with a higher vision, God or the pure devotee, sees that actually the soul has got nothing to do with the material world. Because we're in Maya, we think we do have something to do with the material world. That's the problem. We are in Maya thinking we do have something to do with the material world. Actually, we've got nothing to do with this material world. We're not contaminated at all by this material world. We think we are, but actually we're not. So from Krishna's vision, he doesn't care. It doesn't mean anything to him. You're covered by layers and layers of crap. Krishna, for Krishna's point of view, that's not important at all. He can just pluck you right out of all that.
This world is basically, I think that's what I think is universe is to go back to your pure, consciousness or spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose. And this body is to achieve that. I mean, it's this material world he has created to achieve that, isn't it? It's not. It's temporary. That's what the main purpose. But I was thinking, I mean, in terms of we have to continuously serve as he's asking us to do, because if he gives, it's like somebody goes to do MBBS and he does one subject and you pass him as a doctor. I don't think so. You won't be doing. Same should apply to, if you want his mercy, there's a precondition, right? You have to do. Is that works or um, it's so, but there's no fixed thing that you might get or I may not get, because we do the same thing and you get something different and I get something different.
Yeah, because ultimately to go back to Godhead, that's he's giving the entrance, it's by his mercy. There's nothing you can do as such to get there. You take all the endeavors or whatever to get there, but it's up to him, whether you get there or not. And I mean, it is likely. I mean, if you're making the endeavors to go back to Godhead, it's likely that you will get there. But it's not. What I'm saying is, it's not automatic. It's not. I'm gonna do this spiritual practice, this sadhana, X, Y, and Z for so many days, and then equals going back to Godhead. It's not like a mechanical process. It's because
Can
we're
I just
talking.
say,
Yeah,
can I just say something that comes to my mind is,
yeah,
which I think has been important for me, is that, say we're at the temple and it's a festival, nobody's had much sleep, and we're doing all these amazing services and stuff like that, but then someone turns around and starts going, oh, I've done so much service today, and this person's sitting over there and they're not doing anything. And, how come I'm doing all this work and they're not doing what, we're doing everything. They're not doing anything. Just look at them over there. And for me, I've always thought, well, they're the ones that are missing out. We've got all these wonderful things that we're doing for this amazing festival, and we're being able to do this service. And I always, if ever I've gone down that road. I've thought, but it's about me and Krishna, and it's about what I'm doing to serve Krishna right now, and I'm getting that love straight back to me, you know. And when you're just focusing on that, like what you're doing, and you're not focusing on what anybody else is doing, and I think that's the answer to the whole dilemma. Is it's not so much about, oh, this person said the name of God once and they're going to get liberated or whatever. It's more about what you're doing and what's in your heart and your relationship with God. You know, does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think one of the problems is we're mixing up liberation with having a relationship with Krishna. They're different things. So it's not the person that's been in complete nonsense and said the name of Krishna once when he died by good fortune, or went to Rath Yatra once. Yeah, they're getting liberated out of the material world, but not having a relationship with Krishna yet. So until you develop, like what you were saying, you have that loving mood to serve Krishna. When you have that loving mood to serve Krishna, then you can enter into Krishna's personal planet in the spiritual world and continue that loving relationship with Krishna. So yeah, it's fair. You know, it's not getting the same result. Not getting the same result, but it's still a good result. Even one name of Krishna is giving a very good result.
I guess I was just trying to answer the question of why would we keep doing service if we could get, you know, and I guess I was trying to explain to Narendra that you're building a relationship with Krishna when you're doing your service. So it's not even that we have to do this because we want to go back to Godhead, but it becomes something that it's just natural, and you want to do it, and you receive the mercy from devotees and Prabhupada and Krishna when you are doing the service. So you're not thinking about, why should I keep doing this sort of thing, like why should I serve God? You're wanting to serve God.
I think that, I mean, but I think I got the idea that it's like I misunderstood it, maybe, that, you know, that if you can get, I mean, it's written in scriptures, right? It's written in scripture that you take name once, you're gonna. I probably literally took it, but this may be misinterpreted in the sense that somebody looks at it and says, okay, one time I'm going to do that. But no, that it's, you have to do it at the time of death, which is you have to practice whole life to do that. And service is like, whatever Krishna says, you do it. If he's saying surrender unto me or whatever he wants, that's a service, right? So if you're following that, so I had this notion that, okay, it kind of a notion reading this is that you do once, you take name, you are gone. So I didn't buy into that, but I agree with what you're saying. It doesn't matter what Abhay Prabhu is doing, what Bhakti Mala is doing, what I am doing, that will be taken by Krishna. He's witness, this Paramatma. He's recording everything. He knows what I'm saying at this moment or 10 days ago. That's fine. But I had that kind of a doubt that what it's saying is just one. So once you say, the person who's saying for the whole life, he's servicing Krishna. So we shouldn't get that kind of impression from that. I think it's death. I think death, at the time of death, at a difficult time, because death is, as
no, it's not. One name of Krishna doesn't just refer to at the time of death. One name can be any time between when you were born and when you die.
And you get,
so what I see, what's happening is that when it's saying the person that chants one name of Krishna, they get liberated, It doesn't necessarily mean at the end of this life they're liberated. It might be 2 lives or 5 lives or 10 lives. But what's saying, if they chant one name of Krishna, they're on the path to liberation. That's what it's meaning.
Okay.
They're on the path of liberation. Krishna, the person, for the first time in millions of lifetimes, that soul, they've got, in millions of lifetimes, they've got the human form of life, and for the very first time, they called the name Krishna. So what does that do? That attracts God's attention to that soul. Krishna's attention is attracted. Someone called my name. So his attention goes to that person. Then he's going to be thinking, okay, now I have to bring them back to me. They've called for me. I'm going to help them now. They've called out my name. I'm going to help them. So Krishna, from that moment, is going to work out how to bring that soul back to Godhead. It might be 1 lifetime. It might be 2, 5, 10, 20. But they're on the path of liberation.
Yeah,
How he does it, when he does it, that's up to him.
okay.
And it's completely unique, because every soul is a different individual soul. So how he's going to bring them back to Godhead, when, and everything, that's between him and the soul, like that. So it's not going to be the same for everyone, but you can guarantee that that person that said the name Krishna once anywhere in their life is going to go back to Godhead in due course of time. They're on the path of liberation.
The path.
But the person that's now chanting 16 rounds every day, following the 4 eggs and making garlands and cooking for Krishna and everything, he or she's going to Krishna Loka very soon, like that.
So it's basically on the path, not they're going to liberate it in this life. It can be n number of lives.
That person that said the name Krishna once in this life, it may be a devotee in ISKCON in the next life chanting 16 rounds. But they've started this life, all they did was chant one name. But that's going to lead to further opportunities. See, Krishna's going to give them another opportunity. And depending on how they take that, then they'll give it another opportunity, another one. When I was very young, my mother brought home A Science of Self-Realization and a box of other books, and I appreciated that, the pictures and everything, even though I didn't read it. And so I passed the test. And then I was given another opportunity, that a friend of mine was a vegetarian. He took me to a Hare Krishna restaurant, and the first prasadam I ever had, and I loved it and I appreciated it. So that was another tick. And then a year or 2 after that, then I met a devotee, and then I appreciated him very much. And then that was another tick, and then I joined. So that might be over lifetimes, those things happening, or it could happen in 1 lifetime, those things happen. It just depends. Did you pass that test, or you failed that one, or you passed this one and you failed that one? So it depends, like that. Krishna's giving you more and more opportunities like that. So,
I think,
but yeah, it's a very special event, that the first time that soul calls out to God. That's a very special moment. And you've got to consider, they might have been wandering around the material world in all different species of life for millions of lifetimes. And the very first time they call out to God, Krishna's just so pleased. You can't imagine. Imagine your child left home 10 years ago, and then he rings you. After 10 years, you haven't heard from him. He rang you. What would you be feeling? Oh no, I don't want to talk to him, but no, you'd be so happy. Yeah. And he says, like, oh Dad, I'm in Darlinghurst. Can you come and get me? You say, oh no, I'll come tomorrow. No, I'll come now. You'd be so excited, so you can't imagine how excited Krishna is that we've turned away from him for millions of lifetimes. And then finally we turn towards him. Krishna, Krishna, help me. Krishna, he's immediately you've attracted him. He's gonna do his very best to help that soul, And he doesn't give a stuff about all the other trash. He just says, "You've called out to me finally. Thank you."
I think,
He's going to.
I think, I think the whole world he has created is like this, where the suffering is his blessings. Basically, that's where when you call Krishna or God, help me. That's all his system is merciful. It's just pushing you towards himself. The right thing. I mean, even if you so he's doing, I think it's not, even if somebody is not God conscious, he's providing opportunity to that person as well. That's what I think. It's not just that somebody who's saying, I help me or do anything. Anybody, we see, I think it's like once you're God conscious, you see the same situation which you were in before more positive, rather than when you were, say, a few years back or something, you take it negatively. But when you, in hindsight, when you look at it, oh, it's because of that this has happened. So that kind of a thing, where it's like he's doing it, we are blind, and once you're God conscious, then you can see those things that he's creating more opportunity. He's always creating. Then you're able to see more opportunities, more see him, that he's doing it, kind of a thing. But it's like it's he's there for everyone. And if you are asking for help, his help, his mercy, he's like, oh, he's asking, as you said, he provides extra help. Oh, I think
Time's up. Another very important thing I didn't say, I'll just quickly say, is that someone said the name Krishna or Narayan or Rama. That name is identical with the person. So immediately you become purified because you're associating with God by saying God's name. We should never forget that the name of God is identical with the person God. So you said Narayan, you said Krishna, you said Rama. So then you're associating with God in person. So you're going to become purified. There's no question. There's no doubt. It's just a matter of when you're going to become pure. You will become pure because the pure name of God has appeared on your tongue. You heard it, you said it. Somehow your senses have taken in that name of the Lord. You are going to become purified, whether it's immediately or after 6 months or 6 lifetimes, but you're on the path of becoming liberated, of becoming pure, 100% guaranteed. And it doesn't matter what other rubbish is there, but you're going to become pure because you've associated with the most pure person through the name.
I like the word where it said, you're on the path. The seed has been started. So it's like, I think that makes sense. Maybe I was thinking.
It's just like a disciple takes initiation from the guru. What does initiation mean? Is that the end? No, it's the beginning. Initiation is the beginning. So that's the beginning. And so we think, I'm initiated now, it's all over. No, it's not all over. You're just starting, mate.
To start.
I'm initiated, I'm going back to bed now. No, you got to stay awake. It's like that. Anyway, it was an interesting subject. We've gone a bit over time, but
sorry about that.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. You have a good week. See, it's not saying stop recording or anything. It's saying record and transcribe. Showing up there, we've gone through that time. But there, if I click on that, it's saying record. Why is it giving me an opportunity to record if I'm already recording? It never says anywhere stop recording. So I don't know how. Bring us some milk.
Yeah. It's here. You have to go in there and you'll have to say stop recording. See, you have to go in there and say stop recording.
Where did you go? I did that.
No, in there.
Yeah.
When you just
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good.